that makes us, with Gabby, that makes a quorum. So I move to open the meeting, start the meeting.
Sounds good. I second it.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So the meeting is now officially begun. And we'll just cover some of the projects that we've already done already. Let's see if I can do this where I can still see. Okay, so we had 2 ground-mounted solar projects, and Craig's not with us right now, but I think he wrote those reports. But Joe, you were on the site visits, right?
Yeah, yep. And
so you want to give us a little, I don't know,
sure,
what it was about?
Yeah, I mean, they were both they were set up in such a way that they weren't going to be visible from like the road or from any of the neighbors' sites, really. And the places where that potential existed, the one up in, I think it was Round Lake Road or something, the guy was putting in a bunch of forsythia, I think. So the lot was vacant next to him, but he said for the potential in the future, if somebody moved in there or bulldozed it, right now the lot was just, that next door lot was just all like trees and roughage. Oh, there's Craig now. So it was one of them. It wasn't visible at all from the road. It was a good thing to do. So that one wasn't a problem. The other one we went to, I can't remember the other road, but it was the same situation. There was the things, the structure was in a way that it really wouldn't be visible from a neighbor. So, and actually that guy, I don't think was going to cut down any trees, and he could to get a better performance, but he said he wasn't going to, because on the west side, there were some tall trees that were going to block during the summer, block his panels a little bit, but the south and east were good. So
that was the Round Lake Road one. The first one.
Oh, that was Round Lake Road, right? That's right.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
Acrid Hook was the first one, and that was
right.
That was in a pretty open space. And the other one was a little more enclosed, and it seemed like
oh shit. I've got a yellow jacket.
Yellow jacket.
I'm allergic to him, so he kind of dropped down. He hit the bulbs.
That's better than a murder hornet.
Yeah. He just hit the ground again, but I don't want him to. He goes up in the bulb up there, and then he drops down, and he sort of, I don't know. Okay, anyway.
Hopefully you're not allergic.
That interrupt too much, but.
So that was Craig. That was the first. Craig and Joe. We had set you free.
I was about to say. So we had flies at the vice presidential debate. We've got yellow jackets at the CAB meeting.
Yeah, just one, but I am allergic. I don't think one sting would bother me, but multiples do.
I didn't notice the fly. Did you? Did you guys notice the fly?
Not at first, no.
Yeah.
I didn't ever notice the fly.
2.5 minutes though, isn't it? That's an impressive run for them.
So the other one we had was the middle, which is 12468 Corp. That was the one on Mill Road, which is really I did a second visit on that, and that was kind of for the sake of getting Craig and Joe out there to see, what the whole situation was about. But actually, it turned out to be, I thought, worthwhile to do the second visit, because I don't know for sure, but I think that the contractor really cleaned up the site. He put out the silt fence, and he seeded all of the exposed, disturbed soils that were there. He cleaned up the area that I had mentioned in my first report to the ZBA that showed where he had dug some wells. They had done some wells, and there was a containment area where they were holding a slurry. Where they held the slurry that came from all the well drillings, 400-foot well drillings. So he had dug all that out and he had recreated it out. So, I don't know if he did it for me, but it looked a lot better. Craig was more aware of the trees, which I kind of didn't really notice, but I gave it, so far, I guess I've been really easy on everybody. I gave it that it was a non-impact situation. I could see potentially maybe in the winter, there might be some more view of that garage, but I thought it was pretty well set back and pretty well out of view. But so that was the middle one, and then there was a Scholdorf, Bernard Scholdorf, and that was Rhinecliff Road. George, you did that one.
I did, yeah. I was happy to see that they were able to retain the house's original siding. There were, because of how modest a house it was when it was first built, it's not a particularly significant example of its style. However, it's the only really house of that era along that stretch of the road, and it does have a certain rustic quaintness about it. And I urged the owner, particularly in light of the fact that she's potentially going to use the property as an Airbnb at some point in the future. And I said, frankly, if you're going to try to entice city people to stay here, they're gonna want those.
Landed right on my stomach. Sorry.
They're gonna want as much, authentic, picturesque, rustic Hudson Valley qualities as the house can retain, and that it would be in her best interest to keep those. It did seem like the architect that she had hired was fairly
over here.
About preserving those features. They will be rebuilding the front porch. It didn't look like the replacement porch would necessarily be unattractive. It just will probably not be quite as quaint as some of the construction methods involved in the one that they're going to be replacing.
Yeah.
But I can also understand why they would be replacing the one that they are, because it's so small you couldn't even have two people really comfortably seated and still have somebody get in and out of the building in the proportions of the extant front porch. There's also a considerable amount of water damage to the front of the house from clogged gutters or non-functioning downspouts, or a combination of the two over decades. So a lot of the masonry in that front part of the house is going to have to be replaced.
Does Joe know that Biden is selling fly swatters?
Yes, yeah, I saw.
I think Joe needs one. So okay, now we got it. And so far, and Gabby, you sent one in. You put in a report not too long ago, and I forget what that was.
So before we go any further, can I just add one thing? Okay. It was difficult for me to ascertain exactly whether or not the house was indeed sited on a stretch of what's considered, scenic byway. That was something that someone on the planning board had informed the owner about. But I think going forward, it would be advantageous for us all to know how we can confirm that that's the case with a given property.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, where the mapping is for the scenic roads. I know, like Michelle Turk, the zoning administrator, sometimes she gets the applications before her, and that's the first thing she does is she checks out like everything that applies, and she usually knows she has access to that. So maybe I should check in with her to see, how do I know? How do we know when it's a scenic road?
You guys, if you go onto the website where it says CAB resources, there's that resource guide.
Yeah.
It's like, a 70 or 80 page document. It's a PDF. Just do a search for scenic, and it's in some of it is in the town code, and some of it is in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
But it lists the roads, and it says, that from the Ulster County line on 199 to Route 9G, that's a scenic road.
Okay.
And that's from the state's, the Hudson River.
That's SAS, that's scenic area significance.
Yes.
Right.
ASS or something like, there's an acronym for it. Yeah. And it continues on. River Road is included in there. I'm not sure if the Rhinecliff Road is, but there are local designations as well. And I think it's the Rhinecliff Road is probably in the local designation, not in the state one.
I guess that would explain why I couldn't find it by going on the state's website.
Right. Yeah, because it's not like a National Register thing, but there is specific, like Kelly Road is designated, but
Mhm.
that's a local designation.
And that local, and that's, so if we could just go under the town code, if we look that up, we could probably find.
I think it's in the comprehensive plan, but if you go in that guide that's on the website, the cab guide that you shared with Joe and I, and just do a search for scenic, all the scenic roads are listed in there.
Okay, my only problem with that, I just like to know where the source is. I like the cab guide, but that came from something. So if it's listed in the cab guide, it must be listed somewhere in the town code. So
Yeah, I think that the heading is under the comprehensive plan.
comprehensive, and that's where they designate it. Okay. So Gabriella, was there one that you had done that you wanted to talk about? It was a
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah, it was Henry Stout, which I saw
Oh.
that you made one report for them, but into another property. So he's doing a really cute colonial style house. He's renovating and restoring a house very close to the hospital. It seems like that project has been going for a while because Michael Trimble was there, which is actually like I pushed him to have him do a workshop for us again
Okay.
on how to do all this cab meeting so that their board and our board could like really work together. He was telling me that the cab meeting, like the cab board, like made some major changes in town, and that so there was very positive things in that regard. And then about the project, it seemed like it was just very minor situations, very minor design changes, and anything that there was no environmental damage changes or anything. It was pretty standard. There was one tree that he's thinking on maybe just take it down because it's next to the future pool. But besides that, everything is kind of like set up for success, I think. There was no major changes other than that tree and some tree protection designs that he's working on.
Is Stout like
That was all.
Is Stout like a developer, or is this just all for his personal? Is this his personal properties?
So it is his personal property. So the site visit that you did on Montgomery,
Yeah.
he decided to not go through that project because it's still not approved. It's been over 2 years and it hasn't been approved. There's a lot of problems, as I read your report, and the planning board is like, it's just a no-go for all the things you want to do. So he literally like saw this other property in sale with this house it was already built and everything. So he bought that property and he's working on that property to be his main house.
That Montgomery property, I don't think he actually owned that one. I think he was just trying to get the permits before maybe purchase, perhaps.
He did purchase it.
Oh, he did?
He did end up buying it, and he's still working on that, but so they were trying to build their house there, but since that wasn't kind of impossible in the time frame that they wanted to be living there, they literally just bought this other house.
I thought he got the approval actually on the other property, but maybe there were some other issues that were still outstanding.
I think there was some other issues because whatever, like he's going to still develop there, but they wanted to move by this fall. So they ended up, just switching, to this lot and this house, and it's a pretty cute, beautiful property, like stunning. So, with regards to, conservation board, he's doing everything right. He's not violating anything. But yeah, I think it's just funny how, he just switched completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Then another one that came up was this Nick Clementi. That was these we're getting like 2 referrals a month now. So more recently we had a referral. There was 2 referrals: the Nick Clementi and then Kathy Marriott. And the public hearing on those is October 19th. Everything that we've already discussed, I think the public hearings are done with, unless they're carrying on. Since since nobody's really following the planning board meetings, we really don't know, what the status of these applications is. We have to put in our
So
report.
now, Mark, I'm sorry to interrupt. So Sabrina is no longer with us. Is there going to be another person that is assigned for us, or we're just going to report straight to Gretchen? Do you know that?
They need to hire somebody for us. They need to find somebody. If you know anybody who wants to be a secretary, there's a position open.
I asked John 2 days ago how they were making out, and they said nothing yet. Nobody yet.
I'm sure. Yeah. And, we'll just limp along. I don't really want to try to take up the slack for not having a secretary.
Yeah.
We don't need minutes. We don't need an agenda. So,
Yeah.
so far we weren't even getting the referrals, but I sent an email out and to Ed Roberts, and he must have reached out to Gretchen, because I think Gretchen was still just sending the referral to the CAB email address. And now at least Gretchen is sending it to all of us. So we can still do our duty of, reviewing the applications. But yeah, so we're going to be kind of limping along without it. Our log isn't updated anymore. We had a log. I was trying to keep track of all the projects that were referred to us and who was taking them, and how. But that's not happening. So hopefully they will get us a secretary. Gretchen has always made it very clear that she's not the CAB secretary. So we can't lean on her to try to fill the void. But so far she's been very cooperative as far as sending in these referrals. The way she
has.
The way she's packaging it for us right now, it's making it much more easy for us to function. And then we're doing the right thing. We're doing our reports. We're sending them to Gretchen, and we're CCing the rest of all of our board members so that we can see the reports that are being sent in, so we know what's happening. And so far we're still functioning. And let's see, as far as the number of members we have, I think we have 1 vacancy because of Rachel resigned. And Gabby, you didn't meet Craig and you didn't meet Joe, so maybe we could introduce you. She's a lot prettier than the phone little logo shows.
Well, thank you.
Craig Olszewski, and Terry Kupiak. And
it's supposed to be Joe Kupiak. I don't know why.
Sorry.
No, what happened is my wife teaches, and she uses this computer sometimes for Zoom. And
Sorry, I think I'm. Oh, actually, I have. Normally, it says Emily for me. So.
Yeah, I know it's Joe, but I was being lazy and I was using the words here. So. So that means we just have one. We have 1 member. We have 1 vacancy, and we have 1 member that we are waiting to step in. That's
is that the mystery January person, or is that the return of Nancy?
The return. Oh yeah, Nancy. We haven't seen Nancy in quite a while.
I suspect that you might see Nancy have time to come back after December.
Okay.
She's working.
Nancy said she's going to come back after December.
She volunteered for Church of the Messiah's renovation project as their project manager. Huge piece of work that she's doing gratis. and her time is absolutely filled with that. But they're going to be
I see.
they're going to be demobilizing in December because they can't afford to go any further. So they're going to stop and clean it up and open the church again.
I see.
So she'll be done.
Done a lot of work.
She would be she's a great resource because she's a construction project manager.
And
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
our only remaining, our last standing veteran member. She's the only one.
Yeah, she's like our library.
She knows, she's familiar with more of the resources to reach.
Yeah,
out
she's
to
our
as
library. Yeah.
And who's got that notebook? You still have that notebook, Abby? She had a notebook she was passing around, which had.
She gave it to me, and then I gave her back her notebook, and she gave me another like book, but doesn't have anything in it, just regular stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we could ask. I could ask her if she wants to pass it on so that Craig and
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I noticed
have
that
it.
on the website there's a button that says cab maps, and if you click on that, it's like a dead link. It's to somebody's old Google Drive. So these maps that I want to see, I think, exist somewhere in digital format, but they're not on the link that is on the web page.
Right. And suppose if we want to fix any of the links, it's John, the town clerk, John, I don't know his last name, but I guess he's the one who takes care of all the web pages for the town, the websites. So if something needs to be fixed, if we need to make a request, we do it through John.
I think right now we're like in survival mode and like doing our best with like delivering, like all our reports and stuff. But I think we need to sit down and like actually like push the town clerk or whatever to set ourselves right on the website and with all the tools. Because my experience last time I saw Michael Trimble, he told me like, you guys have a lot of power in your hands, and it's just about how to set it up right. And he was like really willing to like work with us and like give us like his experience and the tools to like make big changes in the town if we would like to. So I thought that was kind of really cool that he's trying to support us to to do a lot of things. And right now that we're going through this crisis, there's going to be a lot of changes that the CAB, the Conservation Board, could do.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of good things that could come up if we set ourselves to, know what's our deal and what's our position and what can we do with this board.
Yeah, he has spoken to us a couple times, and that always has been a little bit what I found to be a little bit of the problem I find is that all of us have limited amount of time that we can devote to CAB. And right now, they have us, they're referring all of their planning board applications to us. So if they're making us chase after planning board applications, I think it makes it a little more difficult for us to start doing all these other things. So
well, it would be, I think, instrumental in knowing, what's the reason why this was referred. What is it in particular that you want us to look at apart from the things that we normally look at?
Well, I think the reason generally, when you see the referral and it says CAB/WAC, WAC is Watershed Advisory Council. And Watershed Advisory Council is in charge of making sure that LWRP is being looked at.
Is that a different body of people?
You know what? No, because we are the WAC. What they said is the CAB will be the WAC.
Okay.
So anything that's in the LWRP gets referred to us, because automatically the planning board will refer to if it's in the LWRP, because we are the Watershed Advisory Council. We have to review all projects in the LWRP. But also If it's wetland or floodplain, I think it's being referred to us. Although interestingly, one of the last ones that was referred to us, Cole was looking at it. It was a fence, and I'm not really sure why it was referred to us.
That's the privacy fence one.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but
I know, Mark, in your report, you mentioned that the property was within 500 feet of an agricultural.
yeah, it was checked off on the application. I just read the application.
Okay, because I went and I looked, Dutchess County has a map with all these green blotches on it, and I could kind of see, none of the streets were on there, and I could kind of see the agricultural district that they were probably talking about. But don't we have a map, like the map that you can get through Parcel Access, that'll show you the bounds of these districts? Because I presume one of the things that we're engaged in doing is judging whether or not there's a significant impact, or
Right, exactly.
and it's hard to make that assessment without really knowing the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy enough to say, well, this is, it's kind of a very shady area with a lot of vegetation around, and they're cutting trees down. That's, going to make an impact. But there's language in that document where, if we're preserving the rural character, agriculture is very important, and that involves a whole different set of parameters. You've got open fields, you've got buildings, and they have utility, and that maintaining that utility, the agricultural function of the land is important to the way that it looks, and it's important to preserving it.
Right.
If you can't make agriculture be viable, if you put too many constraints on it, then it's going to be, somebody's going to come in and subdivide the property, or the changes are going to happen because constraints were put on it. So just trying to strike that balance is a hard thing to do when you don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know where the mapping is for the agricultural districts. But one thing I do is I read the applications, and they have to check off some of these. Not that it's always. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll say no when it's a yes. A lot of times the LWRP, they'll miss it. Sometimes they'll miss it. But in this case, they checked off agricultural district. Made sense to me. And of course, I think you could agree that road did not represent an agricultural landscape.
No.
It's a pretty residential kind of developed road.
Right.
So I felt pretty safe saying it wasn't going to impact it. But even though it was,
yes.
Here we go. Where'd you find that?
That's the, I didn't do that.
Fred must have done it.
Fred must have done it, yes. And that's the map that I found on Dutchess County's website.
Dutchess County has this agricultural districts, and that's for the county. Okay, so if they have that, it's possible, because this is all GIS data. This is all GIS mapping. And I think I told you, I have a bunch of stuff GIS. In fact, that's how I know the streams. I have all the streams in GIS. I've been using QGIS. It's a free software you can get off the internet, which allows you to get into the whole GIS world. And you can start downloading all of these files, and you bring them in as layers. And you can, but I don't have this one. I can look for it. I mean, I see he's got this printed. Where this is off of the Dutchess County. What's the source?
Yeah, this matches too. This is Dutchess County from DutchessNY.gov.
Yeah, and that you see that number 20.
Yep, that's your district.
Yeah, and if we could get, because this is the whole county that you've got in that map.
Right. Now, one thing I found is Dutchess County. They're not as sharing with all of their GIS data. A lot of places just put it all online, and you can just download it all. But Dutchess County, you actually have to request it, and you have to show that it's for a reason. So if you don't have it, now that I see it, if it's not just available to the public, I can put in a request to the GIS department in Dutchess County, and I can get. They'll give me Rhinebeck is what they'll do.
Okay.
So I was able to get all the tax parcel data for Rhinebeck that way.
Okay. I make abundant use of that parcel access, and that has the overlays for the
Yeah,
wetlands,
right.
and for the flood map. So you get the DEC and the federal wetlands are outlined, and the 100-year floodplain appears as a line.
I wonder if they have copies of these drawings in the building department office in the basement of the town hall.
Yeah, myself, I don't really want the paper copy.
Yeah, electronic's way easier to use.
I mean, and since I have the GIS software, I would rather be able to just click the layer and, and I'll see the tax parcel because I have all the tax parcel mapping for these. And
Yeah.
then just see based on the tax parcel if it overlays. And I have the wetlands, but that's also shown through, the Dutchess parcel access. But there's a few other layers that Dutchess parcel access doesn't have that I have.
Well, and all of the zoning, all of the scenic roads, all of those should exist somewhere in a database that
Yeah, I don't know if the zoning map has been GIS. I don't think it's in a GIS format. I would love it if it is. That would make it a lot easier. Again, I can just click the layer and boom, it would know what zone it's in. It's the same with the LWRP. It would be nice if that was just all mapped out. What did we look? So the question is, see, that's a PDF. So
Yes, so that's the link I
I
clicked.
would want to see if I can get the shape file, which is a GIS file of that.
they probably use GIS to generate the PDF.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just by selecting just the town of Rhinebeck, you'd get a lot more resolution. And you'd probably be able to see the street names or at least the numbers and figure out where you are.
But again, since I have the GIS software, I don't want to look at the map. I just want to be able to click the layer and just have it overlay on all my mapping that I already have. So, if you guys want to, go beyond, the parcel access, that's the next step is to start get yours. And I already have a file set up that I can send you, which has all the layers that I've been using right now. And it has all the orthography, it has all the aerial orthography for the area. And so that gets you a little bit beyond the Dutchess County parcel access. There's more stuff than you can get on Dutchess County parcel access. But I don't know about scenic roads. The SAS I got, but I don't specific if it's specific just to Rhinebeck and not to the county. We might not have it. That's why I don't think the zoning map is GIS, because Rhinebeck doesn't have a GIS department that just puts all this stuff together for them. So I don't think it's done that way.
Yeah, it's prohibitively expensive to have your own servers and all that stuff. So
Yeah, you have to have.
Invested
Yeah,
in it.
I don't think you need
Everybody
huge
uses the county.
servers, but I don't think you need huge servers. I got the GIS software running on my PCs. I don't think it's that big a deal, but
No, it's not that. It's not. I mean, with the way they've got so much mapping that they do, and it feeds into parcel access, and they have a whole building filled with IT people managing all this stuff over.
Yeah.
In Arlington.
yeah. So that would be. So I'll try to see if I can get the GIS files for that agricultural district. Well, I wonder if there's any other. We'll see what. I'll ask to see what else maybe is available. I'll try to get that for the next meeting.
Yeah, another thing that I was wondering about is identifying or mapping out archaeologically sensitive areas.
Has it been done, or do you want to do it?
I'm sure it's been done. State maintains a database of that at the State Historic Preservation Office, but I don't know how to access that index.
Yeah.
And somebody knows that there are key areas that are of archaeological interest. for one reason or another, and I'd like to be one of those people.
Okay, well, I mean, that's certainly, and that's kind of up to us to find it. We're not gonna, nobody's just gonna hand it to us.
Right.
So, um,
Well, at the same time, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If it's something that is sitting somewhere, then, you know, show me where it is. And
New York State has a website called GIS Clearinghouse, DOT.
okay.
It's a ton of GIS information, GIS data off of that clearinghouse. I don't know if they have the archaeological. I downloaded a ton of stuff off of there. Also through Cornell Cooperative Extensions, I think there might be some links to GIS. I think they have GIS support to Cornell.
No, I'm gonna make burgers after this call is done.
So you may be able to find stuff but you got to look for it. I didn't see the archaeological stuff, but I had to look for it. If you find it, let me know. Let's see. So the two others, we were going over projects. I did the Nick Clementi was he's taking off a deck. He's ripping down a deck and he's going to build an addition that's a little bit larger than the deck that he's ripping down, and then adding another deck off to the side with storage underneath. And there was a wetland on the property. This is one of those cases where the property was built pretty much on a wetland, and so there was previously disturbed area all the way up to the wetland edge, and that was all his lawn. And he was given a permit by the DEC. It was interesting to look at that permit because it was a permit that he got for doing work in the adjacent area. The adjacent area to a wetland is 100 feet. And based on that permit, 50 feet was the critical. Anything 50 feet, within 50 feet to the wetland would not get an approval, would not get a permit for doing any work in an adjacent area. So he was outside the 50 feet, and because of all the area was considered previously disturbed or currently disturbed area, it was all grass. It was his lawn. It was his septic field. It wasn't part of the wetland. So he got the permit, and we, my report showed no negative impacts. Kathy Merritt, we didn't do that one, and that one's due on the 19th. My wife's cooking, that's why the smoke alarm's going off.
She wouldn't like you saying that.
So this one slipped through the cracks. Nobody stepped up and grabbed this one. So I'm bringing renovations in compliance. So, what I'm just trying to go through what else was referred to us. The last one that just came to us is this privacy fence. I don't know if anybody's interested in doing it. Actually, there's two that came to us. But the last from the planning board that came to us is a privacy fence on Sabasco Center Street. And if anybody wants that one, you can certainly step up to it. I don't know if
It's possible I can do that one.
public hearing is November 16th.
Yeah, I can do that one.
Great. And then I didn't really look at it. I don't know if you want to look at it. Then
Sure.
Do you want to look at it now?
If you're cool with that, sure.
Let me find it again. Photo. I had it. I lost it. Here we go.
I like fences, walls, and hedges.
Now, I'm going to try to share my screen.
Yeah, just click the button.
When they're not made out of vinyl, that is.
See if this works.
Click the share button, then choose the application you want to share, then click share. Perfect.
So this is the permit. Wishes to erect a 6-foot privacy fence around our backyard. The purpose of this fence is to provide privacy and safety to our property and home. Security is very important to our family. Currently, our house and yard are open for all to access physically and visually. This is an issue that could not be addressed by a 4-foot fence. So I think they need a special permit that is permitted by town code. We appreciate your time and consideration. Can you see this, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so this is the part of the application that I always like to look at because it kind of saves us a little bit of work. Not that it's always right, but if it's checked yes, then it's usually, okay, right? Was it within or less than 500 feet from a certified agricultural district? And these are things, if any of these are checked, I think that's why it's getting referred to us, although everything here is checked no. So it makes me kind of wonder why it's being referred. I don't know why it's being referred. I don't think they send everything, but I always like to look at that. Here it says National Historic District, Waterfront Revitalization Area, Agricultural District.
And there's no necessity for them to have to explain or illustrate what the appearance of the fence they're requesting permission for is?
Well, let's see what they've done. I'm just, here again, they check no. Sometimes there's some redundancy in the application. Here, what do we got? I can't, what is it, Sabasco?
Sapasco Beach Drive, corner of Sapasco Center Street and Sapasco Beach Drive.
This is, I can't. Oops, I lost the. So where is the fence?
I don't know, but it's John's next door neighbor.
Who's John?
John Gautier, town clerk,
Oh,
and his wife Lisa.
oh wait, what's this?
They then should be very concerned about what it's going to look like.
Oh, I see.
Like there's the fence with that red line around it. That's the fence right there.
Is it
The location of the fence.
Is it going to be a big white plastic fence?
I'm not sure. I like to put in the
I
shed.
think I saw these guys at the ZBA meeting. Sounds familiar.
Were they talking about big white plastic fences at the meeting?
It should say. It should tell us what the. They should say what material they're using.
Yeah,
There it is. It looks like a big white plastic fence.
those are the same images that I saw.
Ugh,
Yeah.
that's charming.
There you go. Huh. Okay, so you'll rip it apart there. You go get him. You go get him, George. Go get him. They're not going to have privacy in their backyard. No way. Well,
I think their justification is that privacy is very important to them.
and security.
Privacy and security are very important to them, which would kind of figure into them wanting a fence. I think most people who want fences want them for those reasons. Privacy and security.
Might be a dog in the picture that needs a backyard.
It would be interesting to see what the neighbors say. It's kind of like let the neighbors. I would think it's the neighbors' judgment call, really, because they got to live next to it. So, okay, I think I'm going to unshare this. I'm going to
And then there's a control at the top of your screen.
stop share.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, I pulled that off.
You're a pro.
Almost. Whoops. Okay. So, and then we had another referral, which was from the ZBA, and Joe said he's going to step up for that one.
Yep.
Did you guys want to look at it? Should we go over it?
If you like, sure.
Yeah, if you can pull it up.
Yeah, the main point of that one is the building they want to build, the shed is within, it's too close to the property line, so they need a zoning variance on an existing foundation that had something there a while back.
Yeah, I don't know how a while back it was because I was looking at the aerials and that entire area where the pool is seem to
Yeah.
have been fully wooded in 2016. And
Yeah, you know.
I've noticed that you can, because this is on Lemon Lane, right?
Yeah, Lemon Lane, yep.
Right, because my friend Chad lives right next door to this.
Oh, okay.
I don't know this. I don't know this owner, and I've never been, because it's a dead end street. I've never been all the way up the end of the
Yeah,
road.
I've never been on the road.
But I've noticed, because I'm aware that this is kind of like a weird street that just goes off into nowhere. Coming up Route 99, 199, you can see that.
Oh yeah, you'll be able to see it there, yeah.
Yeah, and you never used to be able to see that there were houses back there, and now you can. And I think it's because they built the pool, and when they built the pool, they cut a bunch of trees down. And I'm not sure chapter and verse, but it says in the application that it's that 100-foot setback is required, or a 75-foot setback is required, and they've only got 14.
Yep.
This letter,
That's what the variance is about, yeah.
this is the letter from Michelle Turk. And I always find this is when Michelle writes the letter, it's like very informative, because she tells you what the issues are for the project. And she's, the zoning accessory structure was not included in your original pool permit, does not conform to accessory structure setback regulations. Accessory structure in RA10 district requires a side setback of 75 feet, whereas the structure you propose is setback of 14 feet. You would need to apply for a zoning board of appeals for 61-foot area variance. And that's all she says, just the area for the sideline setback. So, and I'm going to be meeting, that's on Tuesday. Craig did mention, I was saying after 6 o'clock, we're kind of losing daylight.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be probably the last time. Maybe we'll see if we can pull it off. It's probably get dark by 6, but try to pull it off. And I guess I'm going to have to just start giving up weekends to do this, because generally during the day I'm not available. So what is this? This is the pool, and this is
Yeah, the structure, I can't point it. Structure is right to the,
this.
yeah, that's it, yep,
Okay, I know that this was at the ZBA.
yes.
This is
It's a nice pool.
Linnea Welker's mother's house.
Oh,
These are new drawings they didn't have before.
It looks like they've already built something. They've got it framed out.
that's a rendering.
No, but from the photograph, if you look at the
Okay.
photograph.
There's a pool house there that's just holding pool equipment and nothing else, and no room for storage.
It's frame thing.
I don't know what that is. That's probably the builder's already started the work without actually having approval. But
Right.
she was that particular owner was not very happy about having to jump through hoops for the ZBA.
Yeah, she kind of said, we've been living here a long time. Why do we got to do this? And I go, up. It's part of the process of living in Rhinebeck.
Yeah, taking care of, that's it. Okay, stop share. Did I do it? Did it stop?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so I think that's all. I think that's all the projects before us right now. So I think of all of them, one slipped through the cracks, so that's okay. I'd say we're doing pretty good. Just trying to keep up with them, and maybe eventually we'll be able to think about other things. I think the mapping, I would talk about mapping bike trails and hiking trails, but like you said, like even if it's a zoning map, or I think having that GIS mapping for the town, I think is something I think is worthwhile pursuing, if that's something that CAB can be part of to try to push.
Yeah, and at one point in my history, I remember reading a rundown of all of the different zoning districts all the special overlay districts that are in the town and what they mean. Like there's a gateway, like a village gateway,
Yeah.
and there are certain design parameters that go along with that. And just having that explanation of, what you're supposed to be looking for, what's okay and what's not, I think would be really essential.
Yeah. And again, it's going to be up to us kind of to do a lot of our research and find that information. Nobody's spoon feeding us on this board, except for, what you saw on that website.
Well, is there anybody in planning or zoning who's like a pro at this, or who's like really immersed in it and
Well,
wants to
Mike-
share their?
Michael Trimble is probably the most immersed, and he used to be on this board as well. He's been involved in everything for a very, very long time, and he has spoken to us. But I didn't see. I mean, he would tell us, but I think I think a lot of it's on paper, so I don't think they have all this mapping. I don't think they have mapping GIS, in a GIS way. Otherwise, you just, the town, the comprehensive plan is on the website, and all the town codes are on the website, and that's the resource that we can go to. The more we understand that, the better. And then we're also learning about wetlands. The more a lot of it is just going to take a little bit of self learning, because again, we're not, as I said, nobody's trained us for this. We just got put on the board and kind of bring our own level of expertise, but that's not specific to absolutely all the function that we're doing. So we have to do the best we can, and the longer we're on the board, hopefully the more experience we'll have, the better we'll get at this. I know George has always suggested that we need more structure to this board. So far, we're just kind of going along. I know you think that everybody should have a responsibility in a sense, but I don't really know what responsibility yet beyond what we're doing, how we delegate further responsibility.
Well, I basically am, proposing that based on the experience that I've been having with the way the board of the Star Library goes about things. And that was in large part to help facilitate a means by which we could bring in other people onto the board. Having some kind of a nominating committee, really in large part to figure out what the best way to get the word out is that we're looking for people to apply, and then how to process those applicants. That's really what my what was driving me to propose that.
Okay. Well, we have one vacancy right now. So
yeah, obviously we just lucked out that we found these two excellent gentlemen without having to put together a formal nominating committee. So
maybe we'll luck out again. Hopefully they're still keeping their eyes out for more people. And I did reach out to John to see if there was a way to put out a notice that we wanted somebody. But hopefully, if with just one vacancy, hopefully somebody will come along to fill that. And hopefully, Amy, we will be able to step up soon.
Well, I think finding a way, or making the noise or whatever is required to get that position filled, or get somebody to take the hours. I don't think it's very many hours in a week that we require, but we really do need somebody to do the organization. And I don't think it's incumbent on any of us to by default become the secretary of the CAB. And none of us wants to do that, and that's not really productive use of our time. Is the time that
they're willing to pay somebody to do this part-time, so you should let them do it.
Yeah, I think
you guys are volunteers, right?
Yeah.
Volunteers,
Yeah.
and they were willing to pay somebody I think it was 5 hours a week that they were able to get. Sabrina was able to get for herself, and I think that was ample time for what we need, for our needs. So yeah, getting a secretary is going to be pretty crucial, and I can reach out to Ed, ask if he's had any luck just to keep it on his radar.
And while we're all together right now, I'm just curious, does anybody have in the back of their head somebody they're thinking of asking to join? Is there anyone aware of anybody?
Nope. I mean,
Not yet.
No. Okay.
Let's see, what else? Just stuff in the town. That last town board meeting, they never did bring up the whole dog issue at the park. I don't think that was on the. I don't think that ever made it to the agenda. Banning dogs at the
Mazzarella.
Mazzarella Park. They must have gotten enough heat before the meeting to drop that idea. We did get the pathway committee did get to see a draft from Alta Engineering of from their feasibility, is their first phase of their feasibility study for pathway from the village to Rhinecliff. That's kind of
I'm sorry, Mark. Who did they show it to?
well, we call it Rhinebeck Pathway Partners, which is really, it was this group that started out of the gardens. That's kind of been facilitating a lot of this, trying to get a walkway.
Were you pleased with what they showed you?
No, I thought it was very vague. It was like we just spent $7,000 of town money for them to offer us less information than we already have. But I think this is the process that I think Elizabeth feels that we need to go through. It's probably better maybe for just the general public in this way. They made 3 proposals. One was just straight down Rhinecliff Road. They won't say which side.
How could they not say which side?
Yeah, it's just like I said, they don't give really any detail or information of the problems. And in fact, I had to raise issue. We came up with questions and comments for them. It was a draft. What we saw was the draft. So they're still going to finalize it. But I came up with a good set of questions and comments based on the draft.
What were the other 2 proposals?
One was using the right of way of the gardens, and another one was using.
And then snaking around behind the highway department?
No, because the highway department doesn't want that. So this doesn't make sense. So it just shows it going up Rhinecliff Road to that emergency access into the gardens, that driveway.
Yeah, back driveway.
Yeah, and then catching the right of way from there. So
where is the emergency access? That's off of Rhinecliff Road?
It's off of Rhinecliff Road, just past the
Highway.
past the highway department, about 4 or 5 minutes past.
But halfway between highway department and the main right into the gardens.
Oh, okay.
And then
There's a chain across it, and it's kind of like overgrown a little bit, but it's still a good road.
another
So that's where it exits the garden, and the sidewalk would begin there. So in theory, it would have to be on the same side of the street then as.
That would be a good connecting point for people from the gardens walking into the village.
Yeah, but they didn't discuss the fact that the shoulder of the bridge is such that it wouldn't be wide enough for
No,
That bridge is really dangerous for pedestrians.
yeah.
That was one of my comments about the bridge, because they gave us these cross sections. You know what I'll do is I'll email you the draft. I'll email everybody the draft.
And then what was the third?
Well, they came out, it was using, if you look at the zoning map for the town of Rhinebeck, it's interesting. You'll see there's a zoning district. It's a conservation trail zoning district. And it runs, it's like, it must be the old railroad bed or old utility right of way. It runs pretty far out. But anyway, they show it from River Road going across that farm. Okay. From River Road, they go across that Creed Ankeny farm. It goes through the field and then down to the river. And then they were talking about running a path along the railroad tracks to Rhinecliff from the river. And supposedly, like, it's not all, I don't know, I think there's easement problems, and I think there's some pretty steep slope, I guess, going down to the railroad track.
yes.
So yeah, and then they also, from there, they followed that right of way and they took it out to Astor Drive and then ran it Astor Drive. into the village out to Montgomery. It was kind of odd.
Is that the old Hucklebush?
That was a line. There's a railroad line. I don't know, like 100 feet from your house, Mark.
Let's see. You know what? I might have this.
So it's really
Hucklebush
so it's
Railroad.
so it's not so much then that it's about the access to Mazzarella Park and the remainder of the village from there to the gardens. They're looking at bypassing that completely and maybe proposing another entirely different route.
Okay, you know what? You want me to share?
Yeah, that I wasn't aware. I guess I was always then laboring under a misapprehension that it would be on Rhinecliff Road.
Well, everybody, our group all said, do it on Rhinecliff Road.
What's the thing that Sue C is working on? Does that have anything to do with?
No, that had to do with
That was the Conway School project, you mean?
project, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that the Conway school students did not want to engage in how the park would be connected to any other entity in the village. Because I made sure that they were aware when I orchestrated a special meeting between Buildings and Grounds of the Star Library and the Conway students, and I stressed that inroads had just been begun to explore how the park could be connected to the gardens, and they did not want to even mention that in their report or really champion it in any way, which I thought was a big missed opportunity, frankly. But to be honest, the outreach with the whole Conway School project seems so poor between them and the village and town as a whole that I can't help but think that their report is just collecting dust somewhere in the basement of Town Hall. I don't know how many people have actually read it since it was made available to the public.
Sue C did a presentation of some sort at one of the last town board meetings.
Oh, she did? Well, she didn't reach out to anybody at the library to let them know.
Yeah, I don't know. She would if someone had asked her to, I think.
Well, no, when she told me it was available, I asked her, could she please explain to me so that at the next monthly library board meeting, I could explain who exactly comprises this Mazzarella Park Committee? How many people are on it? How often do they meet? What do they do? And she never got back to me about it.
Okay. You see this?
So there's definitely a lack of communication between us, meaning the Star Library Board, who couldn't really be a bigger stakeholder having a building located in the park. Yet there isn't a single board member right now of the dozen of us who knows who this Mazzarella Park Committee is. We know nothing about it.
Bob Ellsworth is on it,
Mm.
and he's involved with Boy Scouts.
I see.
Well,
One of our scouts did an Eagle Scout project putting up markers along the trail. And he had to get approval. I was his coach, and he had to get approval from the park committee. And it was Bob Ellsworth and is it Sally?
Sally, yeah.
Mazzarelli.
Right. And one other person, I forget his name.
We were not even initially invited, the library, to even participate in the very first fact-finding project of Conway when they had outreach to the public. So there's definitely a pretty egregious lack of communication between these entities.
And where do you really think it's going to go? I mean, she sponsored this thing, and she presented a report. It went to the town board. It's probably going to sit. Nothing's going to happen.
I don't know. Well, $10,000 is an awful lot of money for a binder that's just going to rot.
Well, we're spending a lot more on this feasibility study.
I think Sue donated money.
Yeah, no, it was $10,000 she gave them.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. I mean, it might not go anywhere. It could just be something that just sits and collects dust. So you see this? You couldn't see this, right?
This is a good map, yeah.
All right. So blue line is Rhinecliff Road. I think most people think that's probably the preferable route, but they won't give us they won't tell us. They didn't give us any. This is a lot less detailed.
So they didn't address the width of the shoulder for the bridge issue. They didn't say which side of the street it would be on. They didn't say how they would blast the mountainside away on the hospital's property in order to actually create a shoulder on that side of the street.
Detail at all. But
and then where do the pedestrians cross when they actually want to get to Mazzarella Park?
here they share, here we go here. Is that's that right of way for the gardens.
Yeah,
This-
that's they're creating something new.
No, I mean, I favored this because it just,
The purple part uses the top piece on the far right of the purple part that connects back to Rhinecliff Road. That's the utility road that we were talking about, just past the highway
this-
garage.
what the purple part,
But the line that's called Condo Row Alternative G.
yeah, that belongs to the gardens. That's garden.
Yeah, the far right end of that that's the utility road.
No, it's
No?
not. Well, no, yes, this right here is the that emergency.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Right
They
back.
didn't want to take it all the way to the town garage because we had proposed it coming out by the town garage, but the town garage doesn't want it there.
Yeah.
They could do it. They could do it on the town's prop. They could do a piece of it on the town's property in the back side of the garage. Nobody goes back there ever.
Well,
And there's
that's not true. Unfortunately, the town highway department has their picnic table there.
Well, logistically, it makes no difference for anyone on foot getting into the village this way. If they come out by the highway department or they have this other access road, that doesn't matter.
Well, what matters is what matters is that the problems they have getting from the highway department to the access road are the same problems they have all along the stretch here of Rhinecliff Road. So if you're going to do it this way, you might as well just go all the way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is this utility right of way. This right here is labeled as it's actually a zoning district. It's a conservation trail district. It runs they got this mislabeled. It runs all the way out here. And it just keeps going. If you look at the zoning map, it goes far.
that right away was the old train line to the Rhinebeck had a station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it went through Red Hook.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know
that's
where
what
it
it
went after it left Rhinebeck, but what's the name? Mount Rutson Road.
well, you know what? It goes past, right? It goes.
Yeah, if you turn left if you're coming north on 9 and you turn left onto Mount Rutson and you go past the hospital and you go down into a hollow.
Yeah, down there.
Brick building on the right was the passenger terminal, and then another house that got renovated was the freight depot for the Rhinebeck station.
It would actually make a
Along
really
the
nice
hill.
path. It'd make a really nice
That's that one.
path.
Yeah, that's an old railroad right away.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
how they got back down to the river from there. I think the slopes are so steep. I don't know how.
this supposedly be a real problem in here. And then also, like, do you think that does the railroad? Do you think they're going to want to have the? I don't think the town has any rights to along the railroad here.
They'll be pretty strict about that. I don't
They'd
think.
have to actually somehow get permission from the railroad to add that walkway. So it didn't seem very feasible. Basically, this feasibility study says everything's feasible. Basically, that's all it says. Everything's feasible, and then it gives these kinds of cross sections, and it shows these widths, right-of-way widths. I'm like, where'd you get that? Well, they just scaled it off of tax maps. I mean, that's not. You can't use tax maps for any. That's just such an approximation. You can't use that. That's not right of way research. So I'll send you guys this if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I would love to.
And
Yeah.
let's just send you the comments that we had. And and pretty soon I think they're going to try to finalize this. This is a draft. I think they're going to try to finalize this phase of it. It's the first task. And then start doing some public outreach to try to get people on board, I guess. I always said that they got to get the people they need to get on board are the property owners that are going to be impacted. But we'll see, Did I get it? Okay.
I'm happy to do some sort of flyer or advertisement, and just put it out there for enrollment.
It's even part of their Alta's getting paid to do a website. So the town is paying the consultant to do the public relations stuff.
Oh, funny.
Can I just ask, so Fred, it was Susie, you said, gave a presentation regarding the Conway Schools report?
Yeah, do you know Sue?
That was
Not personally, just a little bit of brief back and forth as a member of the STARS Building and Grounds Committee. Was she overall positive and pleased with what she had paid for?
She acted that way, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
it's going to be probably going to be a lot of work for her to try to get, get from where you get a study and then try to make that study like,
Take it to the next level.
yeah, to actually fulfill
Mhm.
what the study recommends. It's a lot of work to get. So it's easy to come up with ideas. It's hard to actually implement them. So we'll see where they work.
Yeah.
You could call Sue. Sue's a very approachable person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should talk to her, George. You
Mm.
should get to know her.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
you just gotta let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta be a peacemaker.
It's overrated.
Sue's very chill. She's easy to talk to. She doesn't get excited about stuff. You'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, because I think the Conway students really missed the mark a lot on trying to tether all these various parts of the park together into a cohesive whole. I think they had a lot of great ideas with regards to resiliency and climate change and the pollinator meadows and what have you, and collecting rainwater. But as far as the actual built environment of the park is concerned, they made it more friendly for a pedestrian to get from one end of it to the other. They didn't do anything to push back against the fact that you are really, you sort of given, like it's a triumphant entry for somebody in a car to arrive at Traver Lane, and the pedestrians really get the short end of the stick as far as being enticed to go in to enter the park. The entrance off of the sidewalk where the Frost Nature Trail hits West Market Street sidewalk is a mess. It lacks proper. The signage has been laying. Actually, it fell. I don't know when. It's for the 5 years I've lived here. It's been a pole knocked over on its side in undergrowth. So I have limited amounts of free market research from 3 years of innkeeping now directly opposite the park, and I can tell you that absolutely none of our guests enter the Frost Nature Trail there because there's no reason for them to. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it goes. A lot of the people will, on a beautiful day, have an hour to kill before a reservation at dinner. If they knew walking past that Frost Nature Trail that there was a loop and it would take almost exactly an hour, that would be a beautiful, brilliant way for them to spend their time before having a meal.
Yes.
They have no idea
So
what it is. It's full of garbage. It's a mess. Somebody dumped a mattress over there. It's
You're very hard. The map is not on town property. That's on private property.
well, the mattress thankfully has disappeared recently. I won't go into that. It's a whole other story.
Entrance to that Frost Nature Trail, other than the sign falling over, is not a mess. It's just
It's a mess. The walls are completely disheveled. There's garbage all the time stuck from people tossing stuff out of their car windows. It collects all the time in the growth there. It's just not pretty. It does not look like an affluent town's
right, big town. Yeah.
There should be a pair of benches. There are so many elderly people who I think would walk from their house in the village up that hill to go to the library or to visit the community garden. And there's no reward for them to make the effort to walk uphill. There should be a pair of benches that flank that entrance when they get there. So there's a logical place for them to wait for, say, a friend they're going to meet before they start on the There's nowhere to sit. There's no shade. It's a mess, frankly.
You know what?
It really is.
Sure, if you donate a bench, they'll name it after you.
Well, I don't like plaques on things.
George Baker. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, there's a lot of missed opportunities, and it certainly lacks a lot of imagination.
So this is I'm sorry, this is like between Mirbeau. Let's say something. It's Mirbeau and the playground or the library.
As soon as you enter the Mazzarella Park property, that's where that Frost Nature Trail begins, right there. And I just think with some creativity, it could be lovely. It's not lovely.
But did you
Yeah.
say
Does it go east of the community garden, or is it on the west side, the entrance?
If you're on the same side of the street as Mirbeau, as soon as you pass the little bit of woodlands to the right of the that second Empire style house whose name I'm forgetting, that's where the Frost Nature Trail
There's like
entrance
a
is.
two-track that goes into what I always thought was a property back in there. That's not the entrance to the.
No, there is an old, I guess, a carriage trail of some kind nearby it. But then paralleling it is the entrance proper into the Frost Nature Trail.
if you're in the know,
That sadly also, and this is another bit of sort of failed imagination, that does not actually connect in any way to the community garden. These were all things that when I spoke to the Conway students, I thought it would be fairly fun for them to actually figure out how to rectify that. I said, as a pedestrian, there is no way for anyone at the library to actually safely, and moreover in a picturesque, attractive, enticing way, walk on foot to the community garden without potentially being run over by a car. These, to me, are all no-brainers, but there's no master plan for the whole thing. So this, to me, when I first heard about
agree.
it, this is what they should be here being paid for to fix. It should be a no-brainer that if you spend a half an hour walking around that park, you will realize none of these disparate parts of it are connected for the pedestrian. But they did not bother to do that.
It's totally a good point, because I was trying to run loops while my kids were in the playground, and I couldn't run a specific loop that was like, oh, this is nice. You know, I had to kind of imagine my trail as I was going through. And yes, you see all these fun things, fun activities, but there's no actual trail that, you know, gets you excited of running through or walking through. And then I'm suddenly in the meadow, and suddenly I'm in the street, and I'm suddenly in the parking lot, and I'm suddenly, you know, is this whole thing that I agree totally that
it's insane on foot. Even as you exit the pool, you are at the very bottom of the hill that these cars are racing down at with no visibility. It's basically an alien from another planet, and you were assessing that park. You think, yes, this all makes sense because it has all been designed and seen by the windshield of a car.
Totally. And you're actually so these are the things that we could, I don't know what if we should you know, do a follow-up as a project, as a CAB project, and just moving it forward. I would happily do that, because that's my heart, that's my strongest in architecture is urbanism, into how can we bring life, how can we extend the town of Rhinebeck, the heart of Rhinebeck, to extend it, because that is the, you know, the playground and nature, the closest, you know, nature activities the town has.
Exactly.
That it could be completely linked
of that part of the village, but instead it still speaks to an era that in the 70s,
it's in a limbo.
Put the library in a very marginalized location and never bothered to figure out how to actually tether it to the rest of the village. That there wasn't a sidewalk there for decades speaks an enormous amount about how that was just punted over there, and let's forget about it. And if you want to, you know, work on that with me, it's something that I would be very delighted.
Yeah, because your property, I mean, your business is in front of it. I think it could be a huge impact for you.
Sure, no, but I was going to say it's a means by which, you know, that some progress could be made by bringing the Star Library Buildings and Grounds Committee together with CAB. I have argued at innumerable library meetings over the course of this year that in light of the pandemic, it's become, you know, painfully obvious that Star Library lacks any real decent outdoor congregating area.
And it's funny because they're next to the playground. There should be more kid-friendly activities somehow, and it has been none, zero.
Exactly.
Totally.
So you know,
I
that's
would, yeah. Let's talk about that, George,
definitely.
because I think that would be really, really good for the town. I think it's something that we as a advisory board could like do a lot of impact in.
Mhm.
You
Well,
know,
it
just to bring.
also,
It's fun.
and it also, in my opinion, is something that would be instrumental in this whole sidewalk to the gardens project. You know,
Yeah, that too.
there should be a reward to entice the people who live in the gardens to set out on foot and enter the village that way. And if you have
Yeah,
a really beautiful and well-made outdoor patio at the very entrance to the park onto Star Library's property, then that does double duty, both as a congregating area for people who want to take a break before they get, to lunch or wherever,
yeah,
whatever they set out on foot from the gardens into the village. You have this
yeah,
logical sort of, stop off point on your way that is also
yeah,
in turn outdoor space for the library.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I will take a look at that and start throwing ideas and see how can we you know just work with the library, the town, everything to make this like a real project, because I think there's more things that we could do. We could even make a station of like vendors for like just refreshments or whatever, and like make it like what you were saying, like almost like a tourist like stop,
Mhm.
and have that more active, and not just the playground and the library, but make it more rich
Right.
and more activities.
My
So
biggest
that could be
fear
really fun.
my biggest fear is that any proposal that I would come up with would be deemed somewhat too decadent and expensive. There was an immediate sort of knee-jerk reaction on the part of some board members of the library. Oh, let's rectify the fact that we don't have outdoor space in light of the pandemic by buying a tent and setting that up. So there was sort of a, how can we do it in as quick and cheap, sort of a nasty a method as possible. Of course, that fell through when those people were reminded that the library doesn't even have a closet. So I don't know where they think the director would put a tent when they take that down at the end
Mm,
of the season. Moreover, the director has no interest in erecting a tent. So I think it would be a question of really, high quality hardscaping
yeah,
somewhere. But I think it's the
yeah.
right time because I think that's a real easy sell in light of how much this pandemic is going to be going on for the foreseeable future. I think outdoor space come this.
We need outdoors. We need
Right.
like the society, the kids, the families, everything. The whole
Asperella Park
humanity
has
needs
almost,
outdoors.
yeah, there's very little shade, there's very little seating. And much of what seating there is
Exactly.
seems to have been designed by a sadist. So
Hmm.
I think that's something you could get people to really sort of, get galvanized behind and champion that. Um,
Yeah.
and the library is looking, at expansion options. And one of the things I took away from a field trip to Kinderhook's library was they
Hmm.
put a lovely um, sort of porch-like addition on the side of their building
Hmm.
uh, as the very first step in a much larger expansion plan. And they chose to do that because it was something tidy that they could finish in a short period of time and show
Hmm.
off to the public and say, look, look how nice this is. Help us with the rest of the
Yeah.
expansion. And I think that proposing and building some kind of quality outdoor space at the library could be that same useful symbol and say, look how nice a job we did with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
how to, move on to the next part of the expansion plan.
And Kinderhook is not even that popular. I mean, Rhinebeck is the town right
Yeah,
now.
right.
So it's just like we already have like Kinderhook at least is almost like it's trying to survive. But like Rhinebeck has it, has that like that impact already. So
Well,
yeah, this sounds exciting.
they had one single very deep pocketed donor that paid for much of Kinderhook
I see.
Library's expansion plan.
But
Which I
I'm
must
sure
say they
there's
did
a few
very
of
nice
them
job on.
here.
I'm sorry?
I'm sure there's a few of them here.
One would think, yes.
I think. I think, yeah. I've heard a couple of them that like were like, you know, telling me like 30 years ago, this town was full of children. This town was what Red Hook looks like right now.
Yes.
It's full of families.
Right.
That was Rhinebeck.
Yes.
And right now it's more like there's more old people from the city with money, but no children.
Yes.
And like there's
Going
people
forward.
that are like eagerly trying to bring families in here.
Mm, mm.
So I think there's, you know, if we do like our you know, community people like, you know, networking well, we could definitely find maybe some sponsoring and some initiative that could push the balance and, you know, kind of like help us with it. I don't know. We have to, I think this is a very exciting project that we could take on and try to just grind and just push it through.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I think I've had enough.
All right. Well, I know Craig's got burgers.
Yeah.
Right. So
And I have 3
so-
children I need to put down.
all right.
What was that?
Move to end this meeting. Second it. All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right. So